Oh, that does the thing. That does the thing very nicely. This is Swirls from Ghost Note Audio. It is a stereo tri-chorus combined with a 2, 4, or 6 voice stereo detune and a very aggressive VCA style compressor all in one box. So it's basically 80s grease in a box. You have a bunch of switches and functions on here, which I'm going to walk you through as we go along. Starting out with the foot switches, one to activate the effect over here and another to toggle between presets. You have mini jacks on the side, one to connect an expression pedal and another for MIDI. This has some pretty comprehensive MIDI implementation. There's a USB-C jack on it and a free web editor that you can use with the pedal. And then of course, you've got some tri-chorus inspired controls on here, along with a bunch of secondary functions. In the middle is a button which lets you select between mono operation. I mean, life's too short for mono, isn't it? So we'll leave it on stereo operation. Then you've got preset and manual mode like on a real tri-chorus. You've got rate, you've got an input control over here and a mix control. Then the detune lets you select between 2, 4, or 6 voices, the total amount of detune, and the mix control. Then if you hold down this middle button over here, you can get access to the individual rates for each of the 3 chori voices over there. Then you've got ratio, threshold, and attack for the compressor as secondary functions. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start out with the mix for the chorus all the way down, the mix for the detune all the way down. The threshold for the compressor is all the way up, so it's essentially doing nothing at the moment. These LEDs here will light up when the compressor is engaged to give you an idea of the amount of gain reduction. Let's just have a listen to how it works. We'll start out with the detune and have a listen to the difference between 2, 4, and 6 voices. Then we're going to bring in the chorus and play around with the preset and the manual mode. I'm just going to start out with like the most plastic clean sound possible from my JTG. I think the 4-voice detune is the winner for me. 2 and 6 sound super lush, as you would expect as well, and there's plenty of detune on there. To me, anywhere past around 10 or 11 o'clock is starting to get into that slightly too much zone. And I mean that just slightly too much, because you can never have too much with something like this. Next, let's set up the comp. So to do this, I am going to hold down this little button in the middle. I'm just going to bring the threshold to around noon on here. We'll start with the attack quite low, so I'm going to have it at about 9 o'clock, and then the ratio I'm going to set somewhere in the middle as well, and you will see and hear quite a bit of gain reduction. mean, that's already pretty awesome, and we haven't engaged the tri-chorus yet. You can hear the compressor is working super hard on there, but it's taking out all those spikes on that very plasticky DI guitar sound. So I'm just going to take the mix on the Detune all the way down, and what I'm going to do is I'll set up the secondary functions on the tri-chorus with the individual depth controls at around noon. Then I'm going to set the mix at noon on here. I'll set the rate somewhere around 9 o'clock on there. I'll leave the input where it was at 1 o'clock. You're going to hear the effect of the preset and the manual control on there. They're both off at the moment. The compressor is going to remain on though. Like I said at the top of the video, that is doing the thing. It is absolutely glorious. The tri-chorus emulation on its own sounds so incredibly lush. The Detune on its own sounds so incredibly lush. Putting them together is absolute magic. And then having the added bonus of the compressor on there is really nice. So we've heard everything with this very plastic 80s style direct clean sound. I'll go over to a warmer clean amp and I'll swap guitars. A Fender Meteora Ultra here. This has the very cool feature of having a bass cut control on it. I just think of it as like a dual humbucker telly from hell on here. So we'll hear it with the bass cut all the way up, then I'll back the bass cut off a little bit, then I'll turn it on so we can just hear what the compressor is doing. I'll bring in some chorus and then finally some detune for the finishing source. good. So good. I love with the rate low on there, you get this almost kind of flanger style effect on there. And I was using some of the secondary functions there to take out the center voice on there. So we sort of had two chorus voices in there with a really low rate, added some detune, and again, playing around with the amount of detune and the number of detune voices in there, along with the preset switch on here, can give you a whole range of different chorus tones. I think most people just think of the tri-chorus as that syrupy thing that you pour over a really plastic DI clean guitar sound. This definitely does that, and it does it very, very well. But for those kind of fatter cleans with a bit of grit on there, you can just get this like girth expander on there. Let's hear it with some crunch now, and I'll kind of do the same thing. This time, I think I have the 3 depth controls all around noon in here, and we'll start out with the rate very low again. I'll take the detune out, and I'll just start off with a little bit of chorus. There should be a little bit of compression on there as well, and we'll flick the preset switch as we go. And while we're here, we have to answer the question, does it No More Tears? Appreciate all the control that this gives you on here, including MIDI, expression control, the onboard presets, as well as stereo I/O. There is a web-based editor for this, and this can actually be powered by a USB-C cable. It only needs 100 milliamps of 9 volt from a traditional power supply. I've been able to just plug this into my computer. Where's my USB-C cable? Right here, and just pop that in, and look at that. Like magic, the pedal turns on and works, and I haven't had any ground noise or interference like I have had with some other pedals when you've got a USB connection on there. There's a web editor for this as well. And furthermore, and I really appreciate this and I wish more companies would do this, they make other pedals in this form factor. And if you want to try them out, you can load the firmware from those other pedals onto this. In fact, you can buy replacement faceplates for this. So if you buy their SWIRLS pedal and you go, oh, this is really cool, and then you try out the Amberb firmware on here and you go, you know what, that is what I want. This nails my favorite digital reverb sounds. Rather than have to completely order a new pedal. You can just order a new faceplate. Very forward-thinking, very consumer and customer friendly. I'm really excited to see what Ghost Note Audio do in the future. You know, if I was, say, going to design a pedal for them, I would say maybe like a dimension chorus, some Detune, and then a stereo or a 2290 style delay in there would be amazing for lead sounds. This is basically like Huff, Lukather, and Landau in a box, but maybe if it had a delay instead of a compressor, a bunch of other people would be willing to check it out on there. But for doing what it says on the tin, it absolutely nails that, and it does a whole lot more in there. It can be used as a simple preset machine, so you just get that sound doing the thing, or you can absolutely tweak it to your heart's content and find some of your own sounds in there. I'll put a link in the video description if you want to check out what Ghost Note Audio are doing. Thank you to the Ghost Note team for sending this one out to me so that I could try it out. I absolutely love it, and it's going on my best of 2025 list. See you on the next one.